Hey guys, today I'm going to explain an Italian fantasy superhero film called The Invisible Boy. At the beginning of the movie, we see a boy named Michele Solenzi cycling to his school in Trieste, Italy. He has a €50 note with which he plans to buy a costume for a party. At school, he sits behind his longtime crush Stella. Their class is interrupted by a police officer named Giovanna, who also happens to be Michele's mother. She is there to inquire about a student's disappearance. Giovanna requests the class to inform the police if they hear from a missing student. After she leaves, Michele's nose starts to bleed, so he runs to the bathroom. His bullies, who have been troubling him for a long time, threaten him into handling him all his money. He goes back home disheartened by the incident. He brings out a few pennies he has saved and decides to go out to buy with his money. Michele then visits a rusty-looking store and asks for a superhero costume. The shopkeeper hands him a skin-tight overall and lousy cape. He claims that it is a suit of a Chinese superhero. Michele doesn't seem fond of the costume but buys it anyways. When Giovanna returns home from work, she sees Michele in his costume, refusing to go to the party because he thinks he looks stupid. She reassures him that he is looking good and sends him to the party. There, Michele enjoys himself and even talks to his crush Stella. But then, his bullies play a video of Stella walking through the street, claim that the video was found on Michele's phone and that he has been stalking Stella. An embarrassed Michele runs to the bathroom and locks himself in. All his classmates bang on the door from outside, asking him to open it. Michele is frustrated and wishes that he was invisible right before the lights go out. In the following scene, we see him jump out of the bathroom window and go home. The next morning, Michele wakes up to the dog barking at him. He doesn't pay much attention and goes to the bathroom to brush his teeth. When he looks into the mirror, Michele is beyond shocked to see just the robe and the brush. Michele rushes out and takes off the robe. Just then, his mother walks in and completely ignores the boy, proving that only Michele can see himself. When she starts looking around, Michele quickly writes that he has gone to school early on the paper and places it on the bed. Joanna reads it and dismisses the matter. After leaving the room, she calls Michele on his phone, and invisible Michele picks it up and tells her that he is fine. Confused about what he should do next, he dresses up in a long-sleeved clothes. After covering every part of his body, he goes to school and watches Stella from afar. Michele then notices his bully and plans to teach him a lesson for troubling him so much. He takes his clothes off and walks inside the school naked and invisible. During class, he picks up the bully's paintball gun and uses it on the teacher, making the teacher suspend the bully. Then, Michele makes his way to the girls' changing room and watches them undress. Suddenly, a towel lands on him, making his silhouette evident to everyone. Right then, his powers start to fade, making him visible again. The girls scream as they see a naked Michele under the towel. The next day, Michele is in his class where a psychologist named Baselli is giving a lecture about his teen's mental health. Two of Michele's classmates have run from home in the past, so he thinks it is necessary to understand teens' way of thinking. As Michele listens to the lecture, his hands start to glow and suddenly they disappear. Thankfully, the class is over and he runs out before anyone can see him disappear. He rushes home, covering all parts of his body, and sees his little sister Candela in his room. Michele asks her to go downstairs while facing the wall. A suspicious Candela opens and closes the door to make it seem she has left. When he turns around, Candela screams in fear, seeing his brother invisible. Michele calms her down and tells her that his costume has given him superpowers. Meanwhile, at the police station, the psychiatrist Basilli works with Giovanna to investigate the missing children. Giovanna insists that the children might be kidnapped, but Basilli argues that they're just being rebellious, which is normal in their age. When Giovanna returns home, Michele is invisible. Giovanna talks to someone on the phone, revealing that Michele is adopted. A surprised and hurt Michele walks out of the house to a nearby swing. While he is swinging, Stella arrives there and thinks Michele is a ghost. She doesn't seem to be scared and instead asks him to be her friend. He makes a smiling face on the sand to communicate with her. The two decide to meet again. After Stella leaves, Michele sees a man nearby staring at him, although he is invisible. The man walks away using a stick, revealing that he is blind. At night, Michele visits Stella's home. Stella is delighted to have made an invisible friend. The two kiss, but right then, Michele's powers start to fade. He runs away before Stella can see his face. Later, Stella is in her gymnastic class alone when a needle strikes her back. It makes her drop unconscious. Elsewhere, Michele has decided to tell Stella about him being the invisible boy. He makes his way to the gymnastic class with his dog. When he reaches the building, he sees a masked man carrying Stella. Michele attacks the man and the dog bites his hand. However, the man manages to escape with the girl. Later, the police arrive at the scene. They figure that the missing children weren't running away and they were being kidnapped. Stella wakes up in a strange facility where her head is attached to several wires. The psychiatrist Basilli is there interrogating her. It turns out that he is the one who has been kidnapping the children. They run some tests on the girl and send her to a cell. Two of her friends who have gone missing before her are also there. The following day, Michele is at a nearby bench when suddenly the blind man from the previous day appears in front of him. The man answers all of Michele's questions before he can ask them. It is as if he can read minds. When Michele asks him who he is, the man reveals that he is Enrich and he is Michele's father. The boy doesn't believe Enrich and accuses him of lying. Enrich then begins to tell his story. He used to be a normal man from the small town of Russia until a devastating nuclear explosion hit the town. The radiation killed a lot of people and made a permanent change in others. It caused their DNA to mutate, giving them unique superhuman abilities like flying, telepathy, being invisible, and so on. These people were called the Specials and were brought to a military camp called the Division to be used as weapons. The Division used them beyond their capacity. The more powerful powers the specials used, the weaker they got. Another side effect was the people were infertile except for Andrej and McKelly's mother, so breeding new specials was impossible. The two gave birth to McKelly, who was the first special kid, but as soon as he was born, he was taken away. So the parents decided to run away with McKelly and were successful, but the people from the division weren't going to back down. They pursued the couple to bring the child back. McKelly's father had the power to read people's mind, while his mother had the power to be invisible. Andrej managed to run away with McKelly, but his wife was killed by the division. Andrej knew McKelly wasn't safe with him, so he put her in front of Joanna's door after reading her mind and confirming that she was a good person. Now the people of the division had found out that the special kids live in this town, so they were kidnapping children and testing them to see if they were special. After listening to his true origin, McKelly is shocked. He almost doesn't believe it, but Andrej says that they do not have much time to talk because the fisherman besides them thinks that Andrej is suspicious and has called the police. Andrej hands McKelly a suit that turns invisible along with his body. He then removes the fisherman's memory and leaves. The police arrive shortly along with Basili. Joanna reveals to him that McKelly is adopted, which makes Basili believe that he might be a special kid. He offers to take McKelly home. When they reach home, McKelly notices Basili's hand injury, which is at the exact place his dog had bitten Stella's kidnapper. He looks at the man suspiciously and tries running away. It turns out that Basili has locked all the doors and is planning to abduct him. McKelly runs into a room and takes off his clothes, turning invisible. He manages to escape while Basili follows him. When they're on the streets, McKelly sees his bully Ivan on his bike. He sits behind him and asks him to drive quickly. A nervous Ivan obliges. When they reach a safe area, McKelly reveals himself to Ivan and tells him about their classmate's abduction. Meanwhile, Stella and her friend sees ventilation on the ceiling. They climb on each other and Stella manages to step outside. While hiding from guards, she climbs a tower and reaches a searching light. Believing that her invisible friend is looking for her, she makes a smiling face on the light and then flashes it up on the sky. McKelly sees the smiling face and realizes that Stella is trying to hint at him. He and Ivan follow the light, but as soon as they get there, Stella is caught by the guards. Ivan causes an electric malfunction using his paintball gun as an invisible McKelly goes inside. He sees Basili and his men monitoring Joanna and Andrej, who have joined hands to look for McKelly. He then goes further in and knocks out a guard. Using his gun, he threatens the other guard to open the cell where Stella and the others are trapped. After getting them out and trapping the guards inside, McKelly reveals himself to his friends, who are beyond surprised. The boys want to run away, but Stella insists that they save the old man, who she has seen locked inside the other room. She and McKelly go to save the man, but Stella takes him to the villains instead and points a gun at McKelly. She suddenly falls unconscious and the old man behind her starts talking. It turns out that he has the power to control her mind. He has been controlling Basili and Stella to get McKelly here. He then brings down a submarine and puts Stella and McKelly in it. The men take the two into the sea. Just then, Andrej and Joanna arrive at the place and meet Ivan. The building has been set to explode in a few seconds. They quickly save the two abducted kids and Basili from inside. Andrej reads Basili's mind and realizes that someone was controlling him. They quickly get away from the building, which explodes in pieces right after. But in the submarine, McKelly discovers his telekinesis power and starts trashing this place. Using his power, he manages to kill the man and save himself and Stella. They finally get back to the shore where a lot of people are waiting for them. McKelly gets invisible in front of them, flaunting his power. Andrej tells McKelly that they will have to remove everyone's memories because the division will come back looking for them. McKelly obliges and kisses Stella for the first time. Andrej tells McKelly that he will come back and leaves after erasing everyone's memories. Everyone then returned to their normal life. The scene cuts to somewhere in Russia. McKelly's mother, who was thought to be dead, was only wounded in the encounter. She had defeated the division back then and is now ruling it. In fact, she was the one who sent the people to get McKelly back to her. The woman is now against all the normal people who look at them as if they are freaks. At last, a guard informs her that although they have lost McKelly, they have found his twin sister Natasha. A clip of the past shows us that Andrej ran away with the two children that day. The movie ends as the guard tells McKelly's mother that Natasha is somewhere in Morocco, hinting towards a sequel.